without consent. She let me. She got that on her blue dress because she let me. If you guys know who I'm familiar.
Oh yeah,
I think
Bill.
the name was Clinton.
Bill.
Clinton.
But see,
So,
all
yeah,
the
you'd
names
think
have
we'd
to
get
come
up.
out. I mean, we've idolized Kennedy, but how much of that was the same thing?
And
we have a phenomenon around sexuality and celebrity, and we have back when I was a child, whether it's Elvis, and I think there was before them was Mr. Blue Eyes was his name. Anyway, each generation had their person that the kids, the girls were drawn to sexually, and these celebrities would go to bed with thousands of girls over the course of their celebrity experience.
Hollywood promoted
but where's
sex.
the line between consensual and someone using their authority and power? If you want this rule, you have to, do something.
Well,
sexual.
I turned down a job once. I'll remember in Houston going.
Let Laura talk. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Torah, I just want to tell you that guys used to ask me to go into movies based on the fact that I would sleep with them. There were jobs out there to be had because I was pretty and a model. I was doing that to make a little money, but I was a real model on a runway, furs and things. But there is such thing as what Janet mentioned, Marilyn Monroe, in a couch. Now, what that means, Torah, you know what it means, don't you? Sleep with me and I'll put you in a movie, basically. Now, I'm going to give it back to you, Torah.
Yeah, and that's the issue, is that as long as there is a power differential, whoever is in power can determine the rules and demand the rules. And this is the structure, the system we live under, is that the males are in power. Now, when I talk about patriarchy, I don't mean to say, that's not me saying all men are evil or all men subscribe to the patriarchy. I'm just saying this is the system. This is how the world is working at this time. It doesn't mean that every male participates, because there are some good men. But in general, what this means is if you want to advance in your career or profession as a female, you have to acquiesce to the male. And if you're a female, you have to give the male what he wants, and that is going to be sex if you want sex. If you're a male actor, aspiring actor, or whatever, you don't have that problem. Like you get advanced based on your talents or skills or likability or whatever. You're not demanded to have sex if it's a heterosexual thing. Like if the one in power and the scribing actor is male and they're both heterosexual, but if it's a female, that's the price you have to pay. You have, and if you don't, you get blackmailed or blackballed like Weinstein did. Harvey Weinstein, if in the rare cases that some of the Hollywood aspiring actresses did not give him sex or did manage to extricate themselves from him when he tried to corner them in a hotel room or whatever, he would send out this message to spread around to the entire Hollywood, all his colleagues, male colleagues, she won't put out. Don't hire her. That was the end of her career.
Okay, Janet, check on the Joan Hangerton. She had an accident 2 hours ago. I don't know why I just got that across my computer. So I guess it's your friend.
Facebook?
But it's with
I'll look at it. Yes, Joan. Okay, thank you for letting me know that.
All right, that's why she...
Okay, I just wanted to address that. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Torah. What were you wanting to address, Janet?
Okay. Yeah. So
I don't know that. I've lost.
So what's happening in Hollywood in terms of Me Too is no different from what's inside the Amish. It's the same problem. It's a patriarchal structure, women not having any rights, women being seen as objects or properties to be owned. That's the problem. As long as we're perceived to be a piece of property that can be owned, there's going to be sexual assault.
Right.
And we're going to have to get past that anything we want, because it used to be, I was very fortunate that I was respected as a strong woman, but I was 5'11", I weighed a lot, and I was driven to be pretty, but mentally and physically strong. But I wanted and begged for education, but because I was held back because of my mothering as the mother of children in Houston, because I met the criteria for the size. You had to be 5'7" or more and, educate what you had. But I had 4 children, so I wasn't allowed to be a Houston police officer. So I went to Pearland and then Alvin and then on to investigating and going to Rochester and then going back to Newton Schwartz, attorney at law. And Percy Foreman, back from when I was a kid, hired me back in investigations, things like that. So with you, Torah, now that let's go into, we've only got 23 minutes left, but you can come back and we can discuss more in detail, which I would love to do some week, and just on how you changed, and what all you're doing with your life. But what do you want to do? Let's mention your book, mention how to get in touch with you, and talk about how you're helping women, because you need to get your message out, because Janet and I we're authors, and I've tried for years to talk about, let's do the woman thing, but now it's all out there. All women are going to be doing the woman thing. In other words, having being women with a voice. And I'd like to unite and associate those women, because Janet and I did an article with us being women in the UFO field with, I think, Paula Harris, and there's a group of women ufologists. It's not that big. Not too many of us go and participate in these groups like we should, but who's got time to do all this Facebook stuff? But yet you're doing something with your life about women. So how do you make your money, girl? Tell these women out there listening. How are you making it in New York?
So first of all, I just want to mention my book again. The memoir title is An Amish Girl in Manhattan. You can find it on Amazon. Google it. You can find it on any electronic outlet, or TorahBontrager.com. You can even get free chapters if you go to TorahBontrager.com. And if you're interested in sharing your story, your sexual assault survivor story, I run a podcast which you can find on YouTube or iTunes. It's called The Amish Entrepreneur Show. And that's really, I'm the Amish entrepreneur, but the stories are all about sexual assault survivors or people who specifically offer services to sexual assault survivors. So my goal is to collect 1,111 stories of assault, and we focus on not the details of what happened to you, but how you process or are processing what happened, what tools you're using to process, and how you find meaning in your life today. So that's one of the things that I do in terms of women. And another thing is I teach memoir writing. There's a website that I run called leverageyourstory.com, and that's where I teach you how to write about your traumatic story, again, coming from a sexual assault background or other traumatic childhood abuse. And I go through and just teach you how to write that and put it out in the world. And I strongly encourage you to name names. Now, it's not always safe to name the perpetrators, but I encourage you to work towards that, because when we name names, that takes away the veil of secrecy behind which the perpetrators operate. It's only that veil of secrecy that allows them to keep operating and to keep holding their power over us. And again, it's not always safe to do that. I was under a death threat for over 13 years from my Uncle Harvey Bell. I couldn't even report what my Uncle Enos Bontrager did, who also raped me repeatedly, because if I reported Enos, I was afraid Harvey would come after me and kill me. So I understand the safety issue. But at some certain point in the journey, we have to name those names. And that just starts by simply saying, me too.
Well, when I was in the Navy, I had a lot of cases of sexual abuse. I was in the Sea Mariner program, but I also worked for the JAG in the Great Lakes area. But the men also had some women at that time, and their story was very believable because in uniform, and some women would use sexual harassment. So we had to really dig deep. I mean, I got to read the FBI reports and compose findings of facts, and, before they went to court. And so it can go, it got to be where it was all about men, and this is in the 80s. Then it got to be where women coming in the military just to get pregnant or to find a husband was the story for a while. Then, now, this was before women were on the front. They weren't pilots yet. They weren't, I guess, being sent to the front, which I don't know if I'm in Torah, if I'm in a place where I don't want to know, or I just haven't done an investigative report. But I haven't been in political or war or military stories. But so do you deal with men, too, that call in? I guess I should do it from a military standpoint. I'm not an Amish person, but I can see the trouble there. So it's really a story, like you said, of everybody. But what about the men that feel like, my husband even told me he had a story where a woman came in and to get somewhere she didn't like him, and they were in the on the army base in Germany, but she just didn't like him, and she was after him and filed charges on him. But he had to go before the general because he was working as 2 Division Intelligence. But she just, I don't know if it was another guy or what. He didn't tell me, or maybe they didn't get that far. But he had to make her cry in there, and just be honest with her. He wouldn't have anything to do with her. But it got pretty ugly, and she dropped the charges. But he wasn't looking at her or anything. She just had info. So it can go both ways. But maybe we need to talk about that too, because proof. So how do you do it? Like, your uncle didn't tie you up in the barn. But at the same time, I know that I had a man I couldn't fight off once in a parking lot in broad daylight. And this is the first time I've ever told anybody, okay? So I was a strong woman, but I was a young girl. It's another reason I became a cop, because it was in a Target parking lot, and I was getting in my car with my package, and he was a big pot-bellied Mexican, strong as an ox, that had a method. And this other woman, I was tried to scream, and he put his hand over my mouth. But I couldn't get away. It was a slam, bam, thank you, ma'am kind of thing. And I couldn't it happened so quick, and I guess it's therapeutic to talk about it, but Jesus Christ, it's going to be here unless I delete the show, which I'm not. So there you go. There's something that happened. After that, I became strong, powerful. I'm going to be a law enforcement and do military and go after all these guys. You understand what I'm saying? But I was young, I was thin, I was tall. I was probably only 136 then. So what do you do? How do you were threatened somehow? Did they hold you down? I'm just telling you, I was shocked and I was overpowered, but I am now 230, a proud 235 pound 5'11" woman. So you tell me what happened. How did you handle it?
Yeah. Well, I just want to address the point you were making about it. That, it doesn't just happen to women. And on my show, on the podcast, it's open to anyone from any walk of life, not just Amish. And it doesn't matter how you what culture you come from, how you identify as gender, no gender, bi, heterosexual, whatever. I don't care. The only thing that I care about is for you to share your story, your sexual assault story. It's mostly the stories I get are women because those that's the gender that is speaking out more. The men are still very hesitant about coming out and disclosing because it's such a huge shame thing. It's enough women get enough shame and blame and guilt and being ostracized or whatever, looked down upon. And men are not supposed to ever admit that they were sexually assaulted. That's a sign of